And take this ground prong, we're going to make a little loop, and we're going to plug it into this ground here. Alright, we got that plugged in behind there. So welcome back to the channel, you guys. We're in for a special trip. Got a field piece, and in this corner we've got everybody's favorite. We've got a Fluke. Now this is a 302. A lot of people consider this a homeowner grade Fluke because it's less than $300. But this is where, if you're a technician and you spend about $100 on a multimeter, you would expect to get quality that's going to guarantee you some level of, you want to be able to rely on your tools and trust your measurements. But welcome to the world where the internet has told you that Fluke is the best brand ever, and that's what you should get. And no matter what you see on this multimeter, it's going to be the truth. And I'm going to show you something different in this video. Now, what we're looking at is specifically for troubleshooting. It's not going to apply in every scenario. And I still do believe that before I'm going to stick my fingers in a box that could potentially be energized, I do want to use a Fluke. So if you're doing industrial, if you are an electrician in construction, I think this is one of the best brands you can get your hands on. The T5, the T6, this multimeter, anything more than that, you really don't want to be banging it around a job site. So this is a very good meter for construction, things like that. If you are a technician, you're a troubleshooter specifically, you probably don't want a Fluke unless you're doing very special. Now, I have been an electrician since 2006. There's not too much that I haven't done. I got my journeyman's at 22 years old, and I became an electrical inspector at 28. I am 37 now, and I have personally been responsible for the upbringing of 3 different journeymen. When I speak with a higher authority, I don't like to sound like that guy, but yeah, at certain job sites, dude, I was the main character. I was the guy that got the things done, that promoted all of the production, and was responsible for keeping the morale of the team going. When I left that company, I started doing more troubleshooting on my own and really polishing my skills when it comes to verifying the unknown. Now, this is a field piece. Field piece is a very good value for your money. If you're looking for a good value, look no further. This is it. I'm sure your climb meters are fine. I've been using field piece since 2005, I think. I'm going to show you a couple of features with this, but you can already see this is a loaded clamp meter. It's got inrush, it's got backlit, it's got temperature, all of the features, right? We look at this Fluke, very basic, very easy to see, which is good in a way. Let me show you why you may not want a Fluke when it comes to troubleshooting versus a field piece. So what we've got is, we got the Fluke here. I've got a wire coiled around this pipe. Now this pipe doesn't do anything special except for sit up here and just hold my cameras, my lights, things like that. But if you're an electrician, you already know that this is considered bonded. This metal wire is bonded. Not the most reliable way, but we're going to get continuity from this wire to this pipe. I'll show you here in a second. Let me show you where this wire is going. If we come over here to the back side of this, I've got this plugged into the ground. So I should get 120 volts from this wire to a source of power. And we're going to do that right now. So we're going to go back over here. We're going to take our multimeter. We'll take the Fluke for starters. Right now this Fluke's going for around $100 in Amazon. We've got it in voltage. We're going to go from this metal pipe or ground wire, and we're going to plug in this plug here. Now, if we touch ground over here, we've got the hot plugged into the hot prong there. We're going to go over here. We should want to touch this. and we should be getting 120 volts. Let's see. Now this is actually a better scenario because I didn't wire this house. So this house has a couple of buggy things going on with the grounds and the way the circuits are tied together. But you're going to see here when I wiggle this wire here, and we make sure we get positive continuity contact, we're getting about 23 volts here. Now, what does that mean? That means I don't have a good ground, but I've got a potential. Okay, so this is going to be the actual ideal scenario for this, right? There's a chance that if I plugged this ground into this hot, we may or may not trip the breaker because we don't have the source. We don't have the full 120 here. Let's go wiggle this wire real quick and let's just make sure. I'm going to make sure that we're definitely in there, and we are touching the ground there. We have 23 volts of potential, I guess you would say, and we're plugged into the hot. Now, if I plug into the ground and we hit the ground, we get a potential on the ground. If I take it out of the ground, we drop down to 0 there. But if I plug it back in here, you're going to see where we get 5.7 volts there because there's a potential there. Let's switch this to ohms and see what happens. Okay, now we're in ohms. We're basically in continuity. So we know that these grounds are somewhat connected to each other because we did have 23 volts. So this is ground, and ground is everywhere in your house. So at some point, this is somehow going to be connected. So right now, we're not getting any form of signal here. I'll even plug a different wire in here. All right, I made a nice, dangerous, pokey prong thing. Plug it in the ground there. Let's make sure this is solidly connected. We're going to get a different multimeter. So we're not going to move these grounds around. Okay, so the ground wire in here now. We got 120 volts AC. There's my ground. The ground is plugged in there. So this ground here extends out 4 voltage when this is plugged in, right? So if this stays plugged in, the ground is connected, as I'm trying to show you. We're definitely connected to ground. We touch here. We have nothing. We're going to keep the same leads. I'm not going to move this at all. We're going to plug in this meter and see what it says. Okay, we are connected back. We have not touched this lead at all. We plug this into our meter. The Fluke is here now. That's still plugged in over there. We're connected there. Let's go to voltage and see what we get. So we have the potential that we had before on the Fluke. Let's go to ohms. Are we going to get an ohms reading? That's the question. All right, we're set to ohms. So we're getting numbers there. We're getting K ohms, thousands ohms. So what this multimeter is telling me is that yes, in fact, these grounds are connected together. The Fluke will not do that. So I'll show you again real time. Plug in the Fluke. Continuity. Still connected to the ground there because you're getting a beep. Still very much connected to ground. Plugging that in. I'm getting a beep now. But no ohms, but I get a beep. Oh, we're getting some ohms. Let's see. So my experience the last time that I was doing this is that you don't get ohms. Sometimes it says OL on it. OL is different than 0, okay? So when we first showed you this test, we were actually getting OL, but we're getting a little bit inconsistent results, which is also another result with this multimeter. But you're not going to get a true reading. It's just going to barely beep. And the closer that I got to the problem was when I actually started hearing the beep. So the first thing I did, I rolled up on the house and the breaker was tripped. So we go to reset the breaker and sure enough, it pops instantly. So I was like, okay, well, must be a short. So I pull out this meter, and I go hot to ground and I get nothing. Because this multimeter doesn't go up to the ohms reading that some of your other multimeters do. When I say other multimeters, I mean your $30 multimeters, your $50 multimeters, your $200 multimeters like this. This Fluke won't do it. So when you're buying the Fluke, make sure you're looking at the K ohms rating. And make sure that it's more than 3. I think this one's 3, if I remember right. But pay attention to all those numbers. Make a big difference in your troubleshooting. And the lower tier Flukes aren't going to do it. Your T5 is not going to do it. Your T6, I don't think your T6 is going to do it. The T6 is about $200. I don't think the T6 has above the ohms reading that you need to properly troubleshoot a house. If you've got a short, we didn't read it at first, but then we did when I jiggled some wires around. Maybe we got a better connection. I'm not sure. Either way, we're able to somewhat replicate what's going on here. Of course, I don't have a short to fully replicate here, but I did show you at first where we had 0 ohms to ground. Then I connected my other multimeter, and of course this one beeps, instantly and lets us know. But yeah, the Fluke, also inconsistent, but just doesn't read as many ohms as what our other multimeter will. So as soon as I connect this multimeter, I've already switched the leads out now while I've been talking to you guys. As soon as I connect these leads here and I switch this thing here, if we select to sound, we get the sound and you get the, that's in diode mode. And sometimes the range is more useful. So let's see what the actual numbers are on the range. So we got the ranging there. If I go from my body with this finger to here, what I'm doing is I'm putting 9 volts through my body pretty much to read that right there. And if I let go of this finger off of here, we're going to get 0 because you're reading through your body. So same thing here. Now, what happens if we read through the screwdriver to get to there? What's going to happen here? Are we going to get OL or are we going to get 0? Let's see. We're getting 0 because 0 is different than OL. OL means that there is no connection at all. So we agree this multimeter works for small things and it's probably fine. This is what you need to know about this multimeter that's $100. The maximum ohms this can read is 3,000. Ultimately, what probably happened was that when he shorted something out, the current got on the ground wire and it probably shifted a little bit of wiring because that's what happens when there's a fault. The wire moves just slightly because you got a lot of amperage rushing through very small wire. So the wire tends to move just a little bit. And when it did so, it pushed a receptacle up against a box so slightly through this whole circuit that the Fluke would not read the fault. It actually said OL, which means nothing is connected. So I go to the house. See, the circuit's off. Turn the circuit on, immediately the breaker trips. He says, yeah, man, all I did was take out this one plug over here, and I tried to put another plug back in, and circuit won't turn back on. I said, okay, this is what we're gonna do. So we went through the house, figured out what plugs were off, because a lot of like different rooms were tied together, and it was just an older house. Once I determined what plugs were off, I kind of narrowed down what the circuit was doing, and I took apart one of the connections in the middle of the run. Then I put my multimeter back on this, and this damn thing started beeping and didn't read OL anymore. It gave me a number. So you got to know how to use your tools, but also if you get a multimeter that reads more than 3K ohms, that's also a really good start, because what I could have done from the get-go was just taken this multimeter, connected it to the circuit that was off, and this thing would have told me that the grounds and hots were shorted together. And I would have known immediately, instead of chasing my tail for 2 hours before. I chased this around for a while because I looked at this multimeter and I said, well, the grounds aren't shorted, so it must be an overload situation. So we unplugged a bunch of stuff, and we tried the breaker, and I tried a bunch of different things before I started breaking apart the circuit, because that's kind of a last resort. And also the multimeter said that they weren't shorted together. So this is a wake-up call for technicians out there. If you're going to get a Fluke and you're going to do troubleshooting, just know what you're buying. You got to spend about $300 for a decent Fluke to do what a $30 multimeter will do. I can go get any Ideal off the shelf that'll read through my body. The Fluke won't read through your body. Let me show you. Okay, Fluke here, wire here. OL. Not zero, OL. If I touch these two together, I'm gonna get a beep. Gonna get a number. Look at the maximum number. 3,000. Look at the maximum number again. Let me bleed it off. Here we go. 2,800. So you can see that's pretty much the max of this Fluke. Anything over that, it's going to lie to you and say they're not connected, because OL does not mean zero. OL means there's nothing connected, basically. Just like this meter. This meter says OL right now. Nothing connected. If I plug this multimeter in and ready for ranging, rearranging, yeah, rearranging. Touch these two together, finger to finger. What do I get? Yeah, connection. Can I get a ring through it? Let's see. That'd be pretty impressive if it beeped. No, it's not going to beep, but it will give me a range when I select it. So that's the difference there of a Fluke versus a lot of things, man. You got to spend a lot of money. The T5s don't do it. The T6s don't do it. Your 100 series will, your brick meters, your 300 series will, those are $300 plus. Just know what you're buying, and yeah, make sure that you know, you do your diligence if you do have one of these. OL doesn't always mean zero. So wow, I'm on the website here. T6 range 2,000. Wow, that's nothing. That's the takeaway here, and hope this video helps you guys out in the field. Let me know what you guys think. We'll see you guys in the next one.